Hey, entrepreneurs. So today I have two lovely guests with me here. Oli Gardner, who is the co-founder and marketing and conversion optimization expert at Unbounce. Well, that was a mouthful. And Stefanie, Stefanie Grieser, head of global markets, partnerships and events at Unbounce. How are you guys?
We're great.
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having us on here.
So even though you guys are from Unbounce, but I wanted to talk today about a movement that have you guys co-started it? Well, we'll get into that. But where I got to know about you guys was from the presenter movement, which got me really excited and interested. So start us off with that. What is it all about and why did you guys start it?
Yeah, it really starts off with a story, and it was our story. Basically, 4 years ago, we started our conference, Call to Action Conference, and I was organizing the conference. Oli was speaking, and we wrote a blog post about our journey to the 50-50 pledge, which is a pledge that, somebody started. I think her name is Sandy. She's in San Francisco, but she basically got really sick of seeing, a bunch of white dudes on stage. And
no offense to the guy next to you.
Yeah. Well, all of them. But
yes, nothing all white dudes except when the stage is filled with them.
Exactly. So she started that movement, and we committed last year to 50-50 parity, gender parity at our conference. But it kind of started 4 years ago, and we wrote a blog post about it, and it got a lot of traction. A lot of people, reached out to us, like yourself, and we decided that we wanted to create a list of great female speakers, and we started the movement, or the hashtag Present Her. And it was inspired by a journalist who did something similar for the tech industry in general, but ours was marketing specific because we work in digital marketing. So a lot of people were presenting other, women speakers, and we created this list. So that kept going, and then we started Center Stage, which is a speaker boot camp for women.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit here and tell me a little bit about what did you see were the challenges. So I gotta admit, I have a lot of baggage in this area. I'm Asian, brown, woman, speaker. So if we're going to talk about diversity here, so I can bring my whole boatload of challenges, but I want to hear from you guys. Now, when you started this, how did you understand the industry? Like, what were women speakers facing as some of the biggest obstacles in getting up on stage? Was it themselves? Were they holding themselves back? Was it the organizers? Was it some kind of mix or some other thing?
Yeah, I think one of the most obviously visual problems is when you go to a lot of marketing conferences, there are just, the balance is really far from being equal. And that has lots of knock-on effects. I mean, if you are a woman attending a conference, there's not someone potentially from your perspective that you can look up to, someone who can inspire you to want to do that, or to show that it's, show that it's a thing. Because some people, based on the numbers, may think, oh, this isn't really, this is just for men or something, just because of the optics of what is commonly seen. And I think part of it is, quite often a speaker is a subject matter expert, and a lot of the time that comes from the founder, one of the founders of a new business. So it's very cyclical, but the more women on stage inspiring the next generation of women to go, oh, I should start a company, I can do this. Then they become business people, they become the founder of a company with a movement or a thought that they need to share. They have an idea, then they naturally become the person who goes out to become a speaker. So a lot of it comes down to the inspiration for more women to be starting their own businesses, I think. And then it all leads from there.
Yeah. I have a little bit of a different, I agree with everything Oli's saying, and I have a bit of a different perspective to add. So I think the problem is a bit twofold. So first, there's a conference organizer. And that conference organizer needs to be educated and open to the types of speakers that are on stage. And you can have a list, like we generated a list, but what good is a list if nobody uses it? So I think there's educating conference organizers.
Yeah.
But then there's also the second thing, which is women on stage. I've seen it happen where you almost have to pull somebody's, tooth to get them on stage and speak, even though they are so smart and they are subject matter experts and they have a lot to share. But yet, if men gladly raise their hand. So I do think that there's a bit of confidence building that is also kind of the second challenge that women face.
So I'm going to ask you a bit of a follow-up to that. So if you have a list, it's the presenter list. I'm going to link to it in this video as well. So conference organizers can go to that list, right? But maybe if they don't know about it, or if they're just, going to grab the same people that they already know and they don't really want to look outside that list. So is there something further that maybe you're doing or maybe somebody else could do to bring conference event organizers and speakers together? Maybe some kind of a public directory where not just speakers are listed, but also conference organizers are listed and they get to find each other. Is that maybe the next step for this?
That's a great idea, because then by having the conference organizer on the list, they're made aware of the list. So it's all very meta. And honestly, then people like me, like speakers who speak a lot, can bring this up with the organizers at every event I go to.
Yeah.
Not all of them. Some event organizers are not. Actually, yeah. Most
maybe the more open-minded ones, perhaps.
Well, it's the closed-minded we have to convince, but it's more I meant that there are certain types of conferences where you don't always meet the organizer.
Yeah. I was going to say, I think it already happens, but you wouldn't know about it. So I am, friends with a ton of conference organizers behind the scenes, and we talk about speakers, we trade speakers scores, we talk about which speakers that were women were great, but it's also not very public. So I think there's a lot of that goes on behind the scenes. And I know that I was talking to Mark from Learn Inbound, and he, we're sharing secrets about what a really good conference is. And but I do think that's such a great idea, is to make it very public. Combining the two. Having like a two-faced list almost.
Yeah, and
it becomes sort of like a marketplace then, almost.
Totally.
Yeah, no, so Oli, I was going to ask you that since you do speak all over the world and you do have all of this experience, so what would you say would be a path or or steps for women speakers to follow? Like if you were a woman and you were starting today, I know it's a bit of a stretch of your imagination, but what would you say to a woman speaker who's just starting now? What should she do? How should she build up her credibility, her reputation, and her speaking cred?
Mm-hmm. It all starts with believing that you have an idea and that your idea is interesting and worth other people's time. And that usually comes, well, for me, that came from writing. So I created a massive amount of content when we started the company. And doing that, you have to become a thought leader, because if you're not writing, and it has to be, the important concept here is original thought. You can't be repackaging what someone else has. You have to have your own perspective and have a strong opinion. And when you do that, you build up and do it in guest posts, be in many places, because what happened to me, is people will go and find your thing as well, something quite specific as your main. You can branch out your main thing. for me, landing pages. So after I'd written 300 blog posts, I got noticed before that, but it was, people would be, oh, we need a landing page guy at our conference. Well, it's him, right? Because some self-branding, I don't know if it's there anymore, but my Twitter profile for the longest time was, I've seen more landing pages than anyone on the planet. So someone doing research is going to go, oh, that's who we need. So that's kind of how it began for me. But then that leads directly into imposter syndrome. Because, which we're all
really?
in itself. Because I suffered from that horribly. That's why people asked me for 4 years to speak on this topic. And I said no every single time because I was a really good writer. I was known for that. But I was scared of one thing, that I'd get up on stage and the first question in Q&A would be, well, how do you know that?
And you wouldn't know what to say.
And I'd just be flummoxed. And it's happened to me on panels in conferences where they've asked me questions that have nothing to do with what I do. And that is related to that. And it can be terrifying, but you need to believe that the fact that you are on that stage, people look to you as the expert and they want you to succeed. They don't want to embarrass you or ask you a question you can't answer. So getting over that fear is really important.
Yeah. And I would say it's interesting. I spoke at Call to Action Conference 2 years ago, and my journey was a little bit different. And it was, so many people asked me for coffee to pick my brain. And I had like 10 of them. And after that, and they'd be furiously writing what I was saying.
On the subject
of like building a conference, because that is what I did. And so I was like, I have something to teach. Like I'm, going for these coffees and getting asked. So I think I could step on stage and talk about this. So I did. And it was also very meta because I was talking to a bunch of marketers about how to put on a conference that they were at, or how to get to it.
You hear all the time.
That's a good one.
Coerce you into showing up.
Yeah. I think that's kind of something to think about. If you have something that people want to learn, like that you can provide, then you should put your hand up and go speak on stage. And I think it starts out small, like rock your first speaking gig and make sure that presentation is amazing and get mentorship. Because I never spoken on a stage professionally. And I asked Oli to mentor me. I was like, I'm going up in front of 1,000 people. I do not want to be embarrassed. And it wasn't a small time stage. I went from 0 to 1,000. And he coached me. And I started off with okay presentation, if that. Oli can comment.
Do you want to tell the question you asked me?
Well, if it's online somewhere, we can link to it and we can all watch your okay presentation, which I'm sure was better than that. So.
No,
but it was an okay at the before presenting it. Like I first came
to him and I presented the first time, and then I turned to Oli and I was like, Oli, am I good enough to be up on that stage? And he said,
no. But you will be by the time we're done.
Yeah.
Sign of a good mentor. Okay.
Yeah, and we worked on it, and I ended up getting a great speaker score. Yeah. Lots of people were, took something away and learned from my presentation. So overall, it was a great experience, and that led to other speaking opportunities because people saw that I spoke at the first conference I ever spoke at. I put a ton of effort into it. I got a mentor. I got help from somebody who knew what they were doing, who was a seasoned speaker. And then it's kind of a ripple effect. Then you'll get more speaking gigs.
Yeah, and to add on to that, when you said, the path to becoming a speaker, what you can do, like, if I don't know how to do this, reach out, like choose someone you'd like as a mentor and ask them. We'll get into the center stage and the coaches we had, but there are so many people willing to help you get started. And a little nugget here from this year, So we asked people, it's a thing now, like for CTA Conf, we put it on the company. Anyone who wants to apply, you'll do a talk in front of us and we'll choose one person every year, if they're good enough. If they're not, we won't choose anyone. And this year, Alexa Hubley was the one that we chose. And here's the secret part that led to some of her success. She didn't say to me, can you help out a little bit? She sent me 8 calendar invites for half-hour and hour-long sessions, just 8 of them, without asking permission. And I was like, okay, that's awesome. Yes. Right? So being bold enough to do that instead of,
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to kind of riff on, that speaker slot. So we put it out to the company and said, you know what? We have tons of people here who are so smart and have a lot to share with our audience. Come out and try out to be a speaker for Call to Action Conference. And you know what was interesting? 4 women showed up.
And nobody else.
So if you create that culture and they see other women on stage because they went to CTA conference years before and they watched the videos, they saw that there were women on stage and they knew that there was a culture and coaches that could help them. They showed up and they wanted to speak, which was amazing.
At this point, I'm thinking, wow, I wish I had access to something like that when I first started to want to speak, because, I was scared out of my skin, had no mentors, did not know what I was doing. I live in Pakistan. I traveled all the way to Boston alone to speak for the first time in front of 1,500 people I had local experience, but, I could really see the value of having someone critique and guide you because, nerves are real, no matter, whether you're speaking for the first time or perhaps the 100th time, right? It's real. And it's not really stage fright, because once you're on stage and you actually start talking, you can get in your element. It's all the stuff that comes before that, I'm not good enough. And exactly, imposter syndrome, you feel like you are, your ideas aren't good enough, and all of that happens. So my journey was that when I wanted to practice, I didn't have a mentor. So I turned to YouTube and I started making YouTube videos to practice as though I'm speaking to an audience. And what that did was that when I applied to speak at a conference, people would typically, now they all ask for videos. And so I had a bunch of videos. I had a YouTube channel. That's actually how I started my YouTube channel, because I wanted to practice how to tell a story in a limited time and how to structure it. And then YouTube is all about audience retention, and speaking is also about, retaining the attention of your audience. I found okay, this is the platform I can actually use. So any thoughts on that as we go in more in a in a video era? Do you think that more and more people can, practice speaking on video? Do you see a correlation there?
Yeah, some of that's how I got started too. The first thing I did was I started sitting on some webinars. You're hidden there, but that was the first time that from writing, I appeared on a webinar with someone else and I did virtually no talking, but it gets some of that fear out. And then Joanna Lee from Coffee Hackers was putting a course together and she wanted just 10-minute video from me. So that was the first time ever. So I set up a camera and recorded something. So that helped. I was getting some video stuff in there, and it trickled on from that point. And then to your point about practicing, when I do webinars, now this isn't within the realm of what everybody can afford, but there's cheaper ones. But I bought a headset, the Britney style mic with
the call center style.
Yeah. So when I do webinars, I did them standing up. So I'd have a clicker. So I'd walk around the room because I had the mic whenever I did a webinar. So then you're practicing, you're getting your body language down, your timing down, your movement around the stage down. And the energy you bring is way better than someone who's doing a webinar just sitting there clicking in front of the screen. So there are things you can do. And then turn on picture-in-picture so people can see you at the same time. Use video that way. So I definitely think video can help accelerate people's skills.
Yeah, and even if you're going to a conference, maybe it's your first conference, but there's, the conference organizers don't have video for your session. ask a friend to take a video so that you can send that on to other conferences. And, it's kind of this catch-22. To become a speaker, you have to speak, but then you have to apply with some of your previous speaking gigs. So it's like really important that you get maybe one or just even, a video of you practicing so that conference organizers can see that. And Oli has a fantastic speaker page, and you could put even together a page. Like, it doesn't, some speaking experience if you have it, but also your subject matter expertise. And it gives conference organizers an idea of who you are.
Yeah, and to the point about, maybe ask two people to do it. A tiny tripod and an iPhone or a Google Pixel. They have great cameras. But if you can get two people to do it, if they're not videoing it, one on you and one on the screen, position them somewhere so you've got the content and that. But then to Steph's point earlier, you really have to practice your ass off for that. Like, pretend this is your one and only chance ever in the history of the world to do a good job. And just make that the only thing you're ever allowed to do and make it your best. That's how you're going to have someone go, I want some of that. That might have been.
Right. Okay, so let's quickly talk about some people want to get up on stage and it's a natural ambition. But what about other people? What would you advise to women? What are the other advantages of having a speaker portfolio as well, having spoken? How does that tie into being an entrepreneur, being a thought leader? What are the advantages today of speaking on stage? Perhaps traveling hundreds of thousands of miles to sometimes do that. So how does it really help build up your business?
It's excuse me. It's incredible. I don't mean to be hyperbolic, but it changed my life. From a guy who was super shy. I've been shy my whole life, but I'm quite an introvert, except when I'm on stage. But
me too.
That's very common as well. It's important for people to know that most speakers are introverts.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, what, really? But it's easy on stage. And for me, the bigger the better, because that abstraction of you in the audience gets further and further. So you're not actually looking at 10 people in front of you. I find that less nerve-wracking. But from a personal brand and growth perspective, there's nothing better. Because, and you have to push yourself to be that excellent, and always ask for speaker ratings, even if it's hard to see the truth, because when you start getting good ones, that really empowers you to keep going. But me now, compared to me 2.5 years ago when I started, completely different people.
So Stefanie, how has it changed your life?
Yeah, I would say that you just connect with more people that want to talk to you. You're up on stage and you're communicating a message to a very large room, and that's so awesome. And it's different than writing. Writing you can finesse, but there's that in-person energy that you can show the audience. You can show them who you are. Like, I think I got a tweet that was like, oh, Steph is like your best friend. Like, I was like, laughed at that. I was like, thanks. And your personality shows. But then you also have had such good conversations after a speaking event, and connections that last a lifetime. No, not to be cheesy, but they are deeper connections because they heard you speak, and then you get into a really good meaty conversation. I mean, Oli met his fiance speaking.
Whoa! Well, that's a story we're going to have to dive into at some point.
But the point of the network, one of the best things about it, imagine that you've never been a speaker. You have heroes, right? You have people you see that they speak, and I want to be like them. You look up to them. When you become a speaker and you start getting good at it, then you can become friends with those people because you're in their peer network now, because they're just the same as anyone else, except that they've already done this, right? Some of my best friends are speakers all over the world. Wherever I go, I'm like, look at the speaker list. Oh, Andy's there. Talia's there. Oh, this is so great. And you become lifelong friends with the smartest people in the world.
I love that. It's like taking networking to the top level. right?
Yeah.
So you're not just networking, but you're also connecting on a deeper level, which I really like, especially for bigger conferences, like thousands of people. It's hard to make meaningful relationships.
Mm-hmm.
When you're on stage, people have an easier time connecting with you because you talk about whatever you talked about and you connect on that subject matter, so it gets easier. So, okay, so let's talk a little bit about Center Stage. How does the movement empower women? What is it about? How is it structured? How can somebody join?
So basically, we saw that like myself and Alexa got mentored by Oli and got to speak at CTA conference and had success. We knew that mentorship was key, and we wanted to provide a boot camp that facilitated that mentorship and helped women kind of workshop their presentations all weekend and then speak.
But also going back further, the genesis of the idea came from a presenter, but then it was 7 women in Unbounce who took this on as a passion project and, rallied more of us behind this so that we could do it. So we did it on a weekend. It was Friday night and then all day Saturday, Sunday. And we put this out there to the world and people applied. They had to create a landing page telling us why, they could be part of this.
Yeah.
And about themselves, and if they had any video, even anything. And a lot of them made a video because they didn't have one. They just sent us a message. So coming back to the whole video.
So is this like local, or can anybody from anywhere in the world apply?
Anyone. We had a little budget. Unbounce provided 10 grand to help do certain things, but you have to bring yourself to it. So it was a good mix of local and people that come from other countries.
About half the people that were part of this boot camp were from, New York, the United States, other places in Canada, and then half were local. But hopefully in the future, we want to have some spots and slots to bring people. So basically,
more budget.
We want to get some sponsors on so that we can make that less of a barrier.
Kind of thing.
Exactly, a scholarship. But we had about 40 applications, and we kept it quite small to 15 women. And they showed up on the Friday night, and we had a bit of a fireside chat, talking about the speaking experience of Alexa and myself. And then we Saturday and Sunday, or actually Saturday was workshop day. So basically you had a coach. So I was a coach, Oli was a coach. We had Krista Seiden from Google. That was a coach who's been, speaking all over and evangelizing for Google. And Kristen Kraft from Wistia. So they
ex-Wistia.
Ex-Wistia. Good catch. So we had them come and, there was
and Michael Agard, another speaker in the company, and then
Alexa was a coach as well.
So we had 6 coaches, 15 women.
And then every coach got a couple of women, and then you workshop that whole day. And then the Sunday was presentation day. And it was crazy to see the progression just in a day. So them coming in with kind of a presentation, workshopping all day, and then they went home and worked on it all night. Some of them were like, I stayed up till 1 a.m., practicing, workshopping, and Sunday was presentation day. And
it was kind of cool how it came with the idea, because we don't have a stage in our meetup space. I've got the screen, so we taped off a stage, kind of like So, and everybody stayed within it. It was great. It constrained them a little bit, allowed them to be kind of on a stage. Like Justin, who introduced the thing to everybody on the day, said, the middle part is lava. This is lava out here. You have to stay on this narrow strip. And it was really fun. It really kind of helped guide people.
So where did you see where were the major transformations happening between when they first spoke and then when they got mentored and guidance, and then when they actually spoke? What did you see were the main challenges that most of the speakers had?
A lot of it. So the Saturday morning, everybody gave their 10-minute talk to your coach. So most coaches had 3 people. And take lots of notes and then provide feedback from that. And then after break, we go into like a hardcore session. A lot of the problems early on were story arc, structure, getting things in the right order, learning how to, I coach people on, so we map out their story journey and find elements like funny moments, aha moments, tweetable moments, a part where you want people to share things. This is an important part. You need to encourage people to tweet at you whenever this is happening, because that allows you to get social proof that you can put on your speaker page. Apart from your ego, that's the best reason for doing that. And because that's modern social proof and validation, and it's verifiable. You can go and find it. So it's a great way of adding to your speaker page.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay. So some of the first challenges with presentations was all about kind of structure and it flowing well and making sense. But then afterwards, once they kind of nailed that piece down and their content down, then it was about finessing their presentation, like when to throw in a joke.
So the actual delivery of their presentation.
Yes. Yeah.
Once the content and structure is down, then how to actually tell it.
Exactly. There's some body language. We did some lightning talks after the first day's lunch, just to let everyone breathe a little bit. So four of the coaches got up and did a short talk. So I did one about tech nightmares, because the tech always goes wrong with my presentation, like always.
Yeah.
And some other things about body language and some other stuff there, and how to nail your opening and your closing. And and I think the collective support of the coaches and the other women there inspired everybody to, it was a friendly environment. When they got to speak, it was just celebratory. Everybody was behind them and they were smiling and funny, and it was wonderful.
I'm right now thinking that everyone who's going to watch this interview is going to be like, how can I get in? Is there like a group we could join, or a mailing list here? Or how do we get this community? How do we become a part of the community? And maybe does this happen every once a year? Is it annual?
That was the first one. So
okay.
Yeah, and we all want number 2 to happen because it's so special.
Oh, it's happening. Yeah. I would say the best thing for people to do if they're interested and want to be part of the next Center Stage is to go to centerstage.org. And if you link it in your video, they can go right there, and they can sign up for the email list, and we'll contact everybody when we have the new dates and the application process for it and everything like that.
Yeah, and we'll got some really interesting partners that we might work with next year for sponsorship and just big names that could really expand this. We don't know what scope we'll bring it to, but who knows, in a few years this could be like one of those meetup style things where there's a center stage in every city. Right?
Yeah. Yes, I would for that. Okay. Well, guys, this was very enlightening and inspirational as well. So let's wrap it up with your biggest takeaway, for women who are watching, women entrepreneurs, they're running a startup. What advice would you give to them right now if they're thinking about speaking or getting up on stage as the next step in visibility for their business?
Find the one thing that makes you the most angry or excited, because that's the thing that you're going to be most passionate about, and start creating content around that topic and showing your opinion and why you're different. That's what's going to separate you. If you're just like, I'm going to talk about email marketing, that's no good. You have to have a specific element of that. You can write about all of it, but find something that that drives your passion. That will help people really want to engage with you.
I love the angry or excited. It sort of seems like the flip side of the same coin.
Right.
It's excellent. And Stefanie, what would be your biggest advice?
I would say, even though it's terrifying, like speaking in front of, even a small meetup or a very large audience, say yes, and then do the hard work and work your ass off to make that presentation the best thing that you have done.
Yeah, and just one more thing, that there's some people go, but I work in a really unsexy, industry that's very common. Like, how do you market something that's not a sexy product? The same thing goes for speaking. If you work in a dull industry, find some of the conferences in that industry and go and be amazing there. Go be funny. Go be quirkily different to all of the really dull people talking about the dull subject. That could be a fast path to top rated. Then you've been a top rated speaker to apply for your next one.
Yeah. And I hope introverts are listening here as well, because it really is a great way for us to be able to get our message out. Because I know for me as well, it's like talking one-to-one with somebody. Like if I have to go on a coffee date, that's terrifying. But getting up on stage, it's a lot easier for introverts, I think, to be able to sort of have one-to-many rather than one-to-one, which is too intimate.
Definitely. And you won't have an extrovert or extrovert sitting across from you interrupting you all the time, because you have the stage.
Yeah, bonus points for that. So guys, this was really fun. And thank you so much for taking time out to come and give your thoughts and inspiration and building up this community. And I hope that it expands and is really, really successful. And as somebody who is part of this community, I really would like to see is this becomes sort of the standard for encouraging more speakers, perhaps women speakers, but then eventually all speakers to get up on stage.
Thank you for having us on. Thanks for the invite.
Thank you so much. It's been awesome.
Be the Media Mastermind is here. You want in? Go to bethemedia.salmajafri.com and sign up for your free trial today. See you inside. They forgot to unmic me. So I was still mic'd outside talking like, oh yeah, it was so good. I was so glad. And somebody came running outside and said, you're so
oh my God.
That's amazing.